It's the queen of the classics, it's the hell of the north, and it's probably the most iconic of all of cycling's one-day races. And sometimes it's still known as Paris-Roubaix. And we have come to BISTRO La Barrique, aptly a French restaurant in Bath, to do our big GCN preview.
Yeah, now if you have not seen Paris-Roubaix before, firstly, I don't know where you've been, given that this is the 115th edition of the race. But don't worry, because you are in for an absolute treat. While being almost completely flat, it is often buffeted by winds, but it is the cruelly rough sectors of cobblestones that pepper the race that make for some, if not the most exciting racing of the year. It's brutal, it's unforgiving, it's bone-jarring, and it always produces a heroic winner.
Yeah, it does. Speaking of which, the winner 12 months ago was a certain Matt Hayman. The veteran Australian rider has spent an entire and lengthy career working almost solely for other riders within his teams. However, it was Paris-Roubaix that he always wanted to win for himself, and last year that is exactly what he did. Nobody really believed he could do it, probably not even Matt Hayman himself, but now a cobblestone trophy rests on his mantelpiece, and he will quite rightly dine out on that for the rest of his life.
When you say veteran, isn't he younger than you?
No, he's not. He's a year older.
Let's take a look at the route in a little more detail. This year's race is 257 kilometres long, with 29 cobbled sectors totalling 55 kilometres.
Which is 2.2 more than they did even last year.
Yeah, so you can see why this is one of the few races of the year where pro cyclists tend to modify their bikes for more comfort.
They can indeed, and also potentially for speed as well.
Oh,
Stay
yeah.
tuned for a GCN video on that. The start is, as it has been for a number of years now, in the small commune of Compiègne, which is actually 80 kilometres north of Paris itself. But it's not until they've done 97 k's that they reach the first of the famous pavé sectors. It is called Troisvilles to Inchy, and it's 2.2 kilometres in length.
Yeah. However, those first 10 sectors of pavé serve as something of an extended starter, maybe like a selection of amuse-bouche, before the main course arrives in the form of the Forest of Arenberg, with 161 k's already in the bank and just 95 kilometres to go to the finish. Now, this one is absolutely brutal, and since everyone knows that, and the fact that it's often been pivotal in the race, the entrance for the peloton is somewhat hectic, or frankly, downright crazy. Think bunch sprint onto the mossiest, roughest section of cobbles you can imagine.
Yeah, it really has to be seen in the flesh, or in the stone, should I say, to be believed, quite frankly. The Arenberg in recent years has not really thrown up a winner of the race, but there's certainly plenty of riders who've lost from this point in recent years. Some people even almost lost their careers due to crashes on the Trouée de Arenberg.
Or teeth.
Yeah, it's been awful some years, hasn't it? Let's hope everyone stays safe in 2017. Yeah. Anyway, there are still 18 sectors to go after they come out the other end of the Arenberg, and the two that are given a 5-star difficulty rating are the Mont-en-Pévelet and the Carrefour de l'Arbre, the latter of which comes with just 17 k's to go to the famous finish on the outdoor velodrome of Roubaix, and this is often where we see the final selection made. How then does the race normally unfold? Well, like most pro road races, the early part is all about establishing an early breakaway. However, at Paris-Roubaix, there's quite a lot more competition to get into that early breakaway, because it can often find itself making a long way into the finale of the race. You can even come away with a pretty good result at the end of it. And that's because you don't have the same stress and also the same accelerations that are associated with being a part of the bunch.
Yeah, Martin Tillingy, once voted the Netherlands' sexiest vegetarian, actually finished third in 2011.
That is a true story.
It is a true fact, having been part of that early move. And then the aforementioned Matt Hayman, winner last year, of course, was also part of that early breakaway. So expect to see some big names, if not the pre-race favourites, trying to get in that early move. However, we use the term early quite loosely. Last year's breakaway actually took 75 kilometres to stick. So the risk is that if you try and be a part of that early break, you risk using some, if not all, of your race-winning energy simply trying to be in the right place at the right time.
For the main race favourites then, it's all about conserving energy on the wheels, good positioning into all of the cobbled sectors, and also a healthy dose of good luck, because there are quite a few punctures and mechanicals at Paris-Roubaix. And you also need to stay alert, because race-winning moves can come from quite a long way out in Paris-Roubaix. So to give you a couple of examples, Tom Bowden in 2012, he made his move with 53 kilometres still remaining, solo to the victory. And likewise, Fabian Cancellara, 2 years previous to that, made his move with 50 k's to go.
Yeah. Interesting fact number 2 coming up here. In 6 out of the last 10 editions of this race, the race has been won solo. See, good fact. Now, to win Paris-Roubaix then, you need incredible strength. You need to be technically on point to navigate the brutal cobbles. You need to be tactically astute, and this being cycling, you also need a strong team to back you up. Then, for 4 out of 10 editions, you're going to need a sprint, because you're going to have to beat the rest of your group. And then, of course, let's not forget, you need incredible tolerance of pain.
With all that in mind then, who should we be looking at as the major contenders for this race coming Sunday? Well, there can only be one person that we talk about at the very top, and that is the man who holds the record of victories at Paris-Roubaix with 4, and that is, of course, Tom Bowden, a record he holds with the great Roger de Vlaming. This is going to be his last attempt at winning Paris-Roubaix, to give him an outright record of 5. Last year, he came agonisingly close. Australia, you might have been jumping for joy when Matt Hayman crossed the finish line as victor, but all the hearts of Belgian cycling fans dropped as Tom Bowden got beaten into 2nd place. I don't think anybody would be disappointed to see Tom win the race this year.
No, I don't think they would. Now, what about Peter Sagan then? Well, he's never actually done particularly well at this race, by his standards at least. I think 6th in 2014 was his best outing so far. And last year, actually, he got caught behind that key split with Fabian Cancellara and made the headlines only for the fact that he bunny hopped Fabian Cancellara as he was lying on the ground rather than anything else. However, I think this year he is going to be out for revenge, and he has all the attributes to win this race. He is technically brilliant, he has a good sprint if it does finish in a group, and he can also go solo as well. So it would be a brave person that bets against Peter Sagan.
Yeah, then we've got Greg Van Avermaet, who has been the man of the cobbles really so far in 2017. He's also proven he can do it at Roubaix. He was 3rd a couple of years ago. We've got Nicky Terpstra as a former winner from 3 years ago. And actually a lot of the favourites for this Sunday are the same as for the Tour of Flanders. We've also got John Degenkolb, who won this a couple of years ago, and also Alexander Kristoff. This is the only one out of the first 3 monuments of the year that he has yet to win.
We haven't mentioned Matt Hayman yet. He's definitely got a great shout, even though he wasn't necessarily up there at Flanders. And then, of course, we also have Arnaud Démare, who's worth a shout. Yeah. He would be the first Frenchman to win in 20 years since Frédéric Guédon. Yeah, but he's looking good, isn't he?
Yeah, he is very strong at the moment. Peter Sagan.
Tom Bowden.
Well, I am going for Peter Sagan. I just think he's going to be desperate to add another monument victory this year to the one that he got at the Tour of Flanders back in 2016. And given the events of the last few weeks, he's certainly going to be fired up. I think the last straw was seeing Nicky Terpstra run over his shades after his crash at Paris-Roubaix. He's going to be riding like a madman on Sunday.
Well, I am going for Tom Bowden. Partly because I think he's actually got a really good chance of winning, and then partly because I'm a hopeless romantic, and I love the idea of him getting his record-breaking 5th win in what could well be his last ever bike race. Of all the riders out there, I think Bowden has earned a fairy tale ending.
Good choice.
Thanks, mate.
Right, well, I think that since there are only 2 of us doing this preview show, we should get an outsider each as well.
A bonus.
So I've actually been giving myself some time to think about this, and I'm going for Team Sunweb's Mike Tjörnesson, because he won the under-23 Espoir version of Paris-Roubaix back in 2014. It is fair to say that he hasn't set the world on fire since he turned pro, but he has been gradually developing. And if he gets into one of those early moves that we talked about earlier on, I think he could be a really real threat in the finale, particularly since he should have some freedom without John Degenkolb at the team anymore. Yeah. And from that point of view, actually, watch out also for Bert de Backer, who's always there in the finale of this race.
Mate, that's 1 prediction and 2 outsiders.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're clearly feeling a little bit sore after the Tour of Flanders, aren't you?
Yeah, I know.
All right, then I am going to go for Gianni Moscon of Team Sky. He was right up there last year until a crash in the finale, or perhaps more accurately, until he fell off in the finale. But nevertheless, he picked himself up, finished 38th, which is particularly notable given that he's just 21 years old. And then add into the fact that he was right up there in Flanders, working for Luke Rowe, and then despite the fact that Luke Rowe crashed, he was still able to stay up there for the finish. I think he's amazing. The only problem for poor old Moscon is the fact that Team Sky aren't renowned for their flexibility of tactics, so he could well be on a very tight leash, but nevertheless, I think he's a good shout.
He's overflowing with talent, that lad, isn't he?
He is.
Only going for one outsider then, that's good.
I've got confidence in Boonen and Moscon. Come on, lads.
Right, well, that is the end of GCN's big Paris-Roubaix preview. We'll certainly be watching the live coverage on Sunday. Speaking of which, this is one of the rare races where live coverage is throughout, from kilometre zero. So I suggest you tune in from the start because the opening is particularly fascinating at Paris-Roubaix. You don't often get to see it.
Yeah, in the meantime, do make sure you keep your eyes peeled for a very special video we've got coming up where we find out what is the best bike for the pavé. And if you don't already subscribe to GCN, make sure you do. It's very simple, just click on the globe, and that way you're not going to miss it.
Yeah. Right, a couple of videos that we think you might be interested in right now. In the bottom corner on Sai's side is a video that Matt and he did about retro versus modern cobbled classic special bikes. And down here, I actually sent them around a few bergs in Flanders to see how many they could get up in one day.
Quite a few? 15 bergs.
It did hurt them, but they got up quite a few, to be fair.
15